We're going to begin the November 22nd Planning Commission meeting. We do have a full room. We do have a roll call. We have 3 members missing, but there's 4 members present, so it does constitute a quorum. We have minutes from October 25th. The Planning Commission members had an opportunity to review those. All those, any errors or omissions need to be corrected, please identify it now. If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as posted. Okay, Signor Jackson made a motion to approve the minutes as posted. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mike Griswold seconds. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion passes. The next item is a rezoning and then a sign ordinance for the public hearings. Before we begin the public hearings, I will like to read the rules of the public meeting. For the record to reflect any speaker who wishes to respond for or against the application of any item on the agenda, each speaker must sign up to register their intent to speak. If you do not register prior to the commencement of this meeting, you will not be called upon and you will not be allowed to speak. Each item shall be handled in the order of published agenda. However, upon motion of the commission, it is possible that the order of the agenda may be changed. Therefore, it is recommended all parties interested remain in the meeting in the event of a change in the order of the agenda. As each agenda item is brought forth, the city staff will present the application, the background of the property involved, and provide a recommendation. After the staff has presented the application, the applicant or applicant's agent will give his or her presentation of the item. The applicant's time is limited to a total of 10 minutes. The applicant may designate any remaining time for rebuttal to any opposition of the application. All registered speakers who wish to speak in favor of the application will be heard and will also be limited to 10 minutes total, not each. Once the applicant has made his or her presentation to the board and the pro-applicant speakers have been heard, the chair will then call upon the registered speakers who wish to speak against the application. The opposition shall likewise be limited to 10 minutes total, not each. After the public comments have been heard, the Planning Commission members will then discuss the request among themselves. Upon motion and second by the members of the commission, an action on the application may be taken to approve, deny, withdraw, reduce the land area for which the application is made, and change the zoning district as requested or impose conditions. These matters are sometimes hotly contested and can result in highly adversarial positions among the participants in attendance. This meeting is not the place for such discussions. Rather, this is the meeting to hear the facts and opinions as presented by all parties. Each speaker will be called upon by the chair and each speaker must address the chairman. Any conversations between speakers and other members of the audience not called upon by the chairman shall be deemed out of order. All speakers are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner, and any involvement of personalities or the use of abusive or profane language will not be allowed. Now, with that said, the first item is an application to rezone parcel ID S133005. This is Highway 278 and I-20 piece of property. This request to rezone from AG to Stanton Springs Business Park. Barbara, would you introduce this item for us, please?
Yes, sir, Chairman. Like you said, we have this application for a rezone. It consists of 240 plus acres. It's on the northwest corner of I-20 and 278 interchange. It's going from agricultural AG2, asking to be rezoned to Stanton Springs Business Park. The applicant is Newton County Industrial Authority, and they are asking for the zoning that is consistent with the Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance. This property will be a part of the Stanton Grove parcel within the social circle in Newton County area. I've got a couple of slides I was just going to show. This is the parcel here. It is the SC or S133-005. This is kind of outlined off the tax digest of showing this parcel. It's outlined in red. And I also have this picture from the Newton County tax map. Will show the pink is the original Stanton Springs Business Park south, where it's got Facebook and Takeda. I think it's still called Takeda. According to Section 914 of the Stanton Springs Business Park Ordinance, district is intended to provide large tracts of land suitable for the planned development of mixed-use business park that provides new jobs and increases the tax base. It shall provide an attractive environment well suited to manufacturing, research, development, professional offices, and so forth. Other types of heavy industrial that would be objectionable by reason of producing dust, odor, air pollutions, that's not permitted. The applicant states the proposed use of the property should the rezone be granted, would be a Class A commercial and industrial development. The development would be consistent with the Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance, and such would be an employment and revenue generator for the community, according to the applicant. The applicant maintains that the property is not suited for long-term agricultural use, nor is it adjacent to any residential areas. The map shows that the property to be a Tier 2. The ordinance states Tier 2 governs the land within the district that is not within Tier 1 or outside the parkway that abuts US Highway 278, promoting high-quality and commercial highway-oriented development near I-20. The staff recommends that the Planning Commission consider approval of this rezone request, and is consistent with the permitted uses laid out in the Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance. Furthermore, the parcel is not adjacent to any residential areas, nor is the property being used for agricultural.
Do the Planning Commission members have any questions for staff at this time? I'm sure we will later. At this time, I'll call upon the applicant speaker. I understand, Mr. Bowen.
Good evening. I'm Brandon Bowen. I represent the Industrial Development Authority. I'm happy to be here with you tonight. As Barbara told you, this is a request to rezone a piece of property into the Stanton Springs Business Park district. This is a property that has been, for a long time, it's been planned for development as part of that. It's been a cooperative project with Newton County, Walton County, the city, the JDA, and the Industrial Development Authority. This property was purchased several years ago by the IDA with support of Newton County and also the Water and Sewerage Authority to begin the process. And the purpose is to develop it in the same kind of commercial park, industrial park that you see on the south side of I-20 with the Takeda and the Meta developments, also the Biosciences building, which is, you know, I was really amazed when I toured it. It's a fantastic development. And in fact, I'll tell you this, I'm from Bartow County. I took what I learned here, went back and met with the commissioners and said we should be doing this because this is a really great development. The point or the desire is to begin developing this portion here in that fashion. It's already annexed into the city of a social circle, so we need to rezone it to begin that process. Once we get that zoning, the next step will be cutting roads, infrastructure, and marketing to try to market that towards end users. Barbara, let's see, can you zoom up or take to the other slide you showed?
Which one?
That would be perfect. So there's what we're proposing. There are two tiers under your ordinance, and we're proposing that development would be done in those two tiers. This front section would be Tier 2 under the ordinance, which is commercial. We're looking for hotels, conference center, restaurants in that area. And then the back portion would be Tier 1, which would be your Class A industrial uses. I understand the city currently has a moratorium on distributions and warehouses. This would be consistent with that. As your ordinance provides, distribution facilities, warehouses are not permitted except as accessory to the principal industrial uses. That's exactly what we intend to do here. So again, this would be totally consistent with the Stanton Springs Business Park on the south side. Turning to the planning questions, this is a model of good planning. Your comprehensive plan addresses this property, shows it as being gateway, interchange, commercial. If we look at your comprehensive plan, specifically page 40, it talks about how the appropriate zoning in that is mixed-use business, and in fact, specifically says Stanton Springs Business Park. So this is planning as it's supposed to be done, following along with that, totally consistent with your ordinance and your comprehensive plan. We are not asking for any variances at this time or anything of that nature. We would expect to develop under the strict terms of the Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance. We have several other speakers here in favor, so I'm going to save some time. I would like to reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal, though. And that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Bowen, you have 6 minutes and 17 seconds rebuttal.
Okay, thank you.
All right. First speaker that we have that's like to speak in favor for, Ronnie Cowan.
Thank y'all. It's good to meet with y'all tonight. I am the District Commissioner for District 5 in Newton County, and it's my understanding all this property is in Newton County, although it's inside the city limits of Social Circle. From my perspective, I've had no calls or anything from citizens concerned about anything down there. And it looks like it's going to be consistent with developing the projects that are across the street over there on I-20. I think is the right development for that area. So just want to let you know that the District 5 Commissioner in Newton County is supportive of that. Thank you.
Debbie Harper.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Harper. I am a lifelong resident of Newton County and very fortunate to be president of the chamber in Newton County. We are excited for the opportunity that Stanton Groves brings to Newton County and Social Circle. Our mission is that we would be a catalyst for business growth, an advocate for businesses among our community partners, including Social Circle in Walton County, the Walton Chamber and the Office of Economic Development, and a champion for a better quality of life. The opportunity here at Stanton Grove is a textbook example of that mission that we have. Also, when you're looking at your local option sales tax, your special purpose local option sales tax, and that alone, we're looking to major contributions to each of our tax digests. That helps to fund the infrastructure, roads, business, those quality of life projects, and both of our school systems. These are things that can not only rest on the backs of our property owners. Just to put that a little in perspective, your average Dunkin' Donuts brings in about $1 million annually in those sales tax revenues, as well as the average Chick-fil-A is closer to about $6 million. This opportunity to not only attract local citizens, local employees as of Meta and Takeda, the interstate traffic alone is immeasurable to what it can bring to our communities. And we will use this opportunity to work with Newton County, Social Circle, the Office of Economic Development in Newton County, the Walton Chamber, to attract those quality end users to the area. Thank you.
Ms. Harper, real quick, I have one question for you.
Yes.
Just for the record, do you reside anywhere in that area? Where's your residence?
I live just a little west of Mansfield.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yes.
And for the record, the previous speaker I know lives in River Cove, so thank you. Mike Hopkins. There are 7 minutes and 20 seconds remaining.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to come here tonight. My name is Mike Hopkins, Executive Director of the Newton County Water and Sewage Authority, lifelong resident of Newton County.
Where's your residence, sir?
It is in Covington. Yes, sir. So I want to speak in favor tonight of the property. We do have sewer on the property, and we do have water fronting 278 along with that, and we also have a vested interest in that we went in partnership with the Newton County Board of Commission to back the bonds for the IDA of this in order to keep it similar to what Stanton Springs has to offer.
So it's safe to say the Newton County Water and Sewer Authority has a vested financial interest in this property and development of this property?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay.
About $50 million worth.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. At this time, there's no other speakers that are signed up to speak in favor for. We do have a few members that would like to speak in opposition. The first is Christina Wirtz. Ma'am, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, it's Christina Wirtz, and I'm in Social Circle, 2005 Darrell Drive. I'm here tonight to ask that you recommend a no vote to the proposed zoning change from agricultural to Stanton Springs Business Park. This zoning designation gives the JDA ticket to do whatever they please with the land, including some or all of it to heavy industrial. We've seen that in the past with what happened with Rivian. And I want to address something that was said about the residences, because this is exactly how Rivian happened. These are residences here and right here. These are islands in a wave, a sea of industrial. They're wanting to zone this little piece and then they'll give it to the state to take over the rest. That's exactly what happened over here. They got one little piece on I-20, state took it over. We're left across the street from it in the middle. The issues with that, we have water. All of the residences that are left in these little islands are on well water. Residences are already experiencing issues with the Rivian construction with their water. What will happen when toxic chemicals leak into that water? Safety. More heavy industrial and possible high-density housing will lead to increased crime in the area. Many of these residences, including myself, have children that will no longer be able to play in their yard because it won't be safe. County and city police, fire, and EMS services are not equipped to handle this large increase. Air pollution. More construction and industry will greatly impact air quality as it stands now with the diesel fumes and red clay dust coming onto our property from Rivian. It's already causing myself and my children increased headaches, asthma, and allergies. Traffic. This will increase traffic on 278. Currently, you cannot turn out and take a left on 278 from Hancock or from Davis Academy in heavy traffic hours. There's no plans to increase the 278s only going to Willow Springs Road. That's not going to be acceptable for all these residences. In summary, I ask you to stand up for the residents surrounded by this massive sea of heavy industry brought on by the JDA. Residents that just want to be able to enjoy their property, raise their children with safety and security. We don't want another Fulton Industrial. We deserve better.
Thank you.
Amen.
Okay. Molly Broad next, please.
Good evening. My name is Molly Broadnax. I live at 1942 Highway 278. So I'd just like to ask you all to consider a few things and to address just a couple of the concerns that I have, specifically after hearing what has already been said this evening. First of all, this zoning that's being requested. I'll first say that I understand that this has been in the works for years. I understand that we will not keep industry from going here, most likely. I get that. You know, it's been in the works whether we knew it or not. However, this zoning, SSBP, if the city of Social Circle allows this to happen and to be rezoned to this instead of a typical industrial rezone, you are going to turn over all of the power that you have to a development authority. And I understand that as of right now, it's not the Joint Development Authority, it's the Newton Development Authority, but you're going to give all of your power, you won't have it anymore. They'll do whatever they want to with this area. I ask you to please consider that. Please don't come here with your minds made up already. The Stanton Springs development, it was read tonight that heavy industrial is not allowed. We know that's what's going there. It's been taken over. That is what will happen. You know, if they want to. I'm not saying that it will happen. Potential. There's potential for that to happen if you rezone it to this. Consider what this is rezoned to. I understand that it's going to be rezoned at some point. It will not remain agricultural always, but just please consider what it is rezoned to. Also, I'd like to address something that I read and something that was also said here tonight, that there are no properties adjacent to, no residential properties adjacent to this. Adjacent, according to the Webster's Dictionary, lying next to or near.
All of these properties, all or the majority of these properties are residential properties. If that's not adjacent to, I don't know what is. We're starting this out in the same way that we're gun shy, that we have seen other things start out with blatant. That is a blatant lie. Or you're saying that we don't exist. And we're treated as if we don't exist. You're just annexing all of these properties out as it benefits the city. And leaving these little islands of residents, which I didn't really even think was legal, but I guess there's enough little holes in some of these places that is making it legal. It stinks to be in our situation, and we're asking you to please think about this. Please don't make this decision tonight. Please consider and think about the residents, all of these hundreds of residences that are in this area that have children that are already being affected by the development that's going on. This is all right now the plans are going to do is bottleneck all of this traffic to where I can't get out of my driveway. It's almost that way now. We're just asking you to please consider what this is being rezoned to. Thank you.
Sorry, I can't read the handwriting of Pat. Maybe the last name starts with an H. Is there a Pat H?
That would be my name, but I'm gonna pass.
Okay.
My name's Dan Harvey, so.
Dan, I'm sorry. Were you the third one to sign?
Well, you know, they say that the worse your handwriting is, the more creative you are.
You must be a physician. And Mr. Harvey, thank you. The next is Mr. Bray, Matt Bray. There's 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
2 minutes, 40 seconds, okay. All right, my name's Matthew Bray. I live on Hancock Drive, just off 278. First thing I have for y'all is a question for something y'all to consider. Stanton Springs Business Park zoning, how does it apply to property outside of the Stanton Springs Business Park itself? Why does this not lie under the authority of, since it's annexed into the City of Social Circle, any industrial or commercial zoning applicable to Social Circle city zoning? It just seems rather odd to me. But I believe and I would contend that the applicant has made a fault in their application, even regarding Stanton Springs Business Park, because in the district regulations it states that Tier 1 governs property development abutting the existing parkway known as Shire Parkway. None of this property abuts Shire Parkway. That is south of I-20. I believe the applicant's application has faults in it that would deem it to be turned down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There are no other speakers in opposition. Before we close the public hearing, as stated, the applicant Mr. Brandon Bowen is the applicant's representative. He does have 6 minutes remaining. 6 minutes and 17 seconds. Mr. Bowen, please give me a moment to reset the clock. Go.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a fraction of that time just to address some of the concerns that were raised. One, concern about what the JDA was going to do. Just to be clear, this is not a JDA project. It's the IDA, which sounds similar, but is not the same thing. This is an authority that is made up of a board that is appointed by the local governments in our area, in your area. There was a concern about high-density housing going out there. That is not something that would be permissive in the agreements between Newton County Water and Sewer Authority and the IDA. So there will not be any residential as part of that development. There was concern about air pollution. The Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance does not, it limits the types of industrial uses as far as those that are likely to produce pollution to not be permitted. So that's not what we're looking at. And in fact, the question coming a minute ago, why is this not under the city's ordinance? I mean, to be clear, and I think you know this, the city's zoning ordinance does have a Stanton Springs Business Park District. And so this would be under the city's ordinance and the city's regulation. Obviously, any development of this property is going to be through the city staff and for approval and whatnot. As you know, this is just one step of a many-step process. The city will retain authority over this development. Concern about adjacency. I don't want to quibble with how close people's houses are to it, but I do want to make sure everyone understands. If looking at all this light blue property is not what we're talking about. This property here is not IDA property. This property here is not IDA property. These back here are not either. We're just talking about this one, and it's a correct statement that there is no residential adjacent to that property. Finally, I guess there's a concern of the speculative nature of this. And I can understand, I do zonings all over the state, and I understand the concerns where the developer comes in and says, hey, give me this zoning so I can see if I can go market it. Okay, that's one thing if a private developer does this. It's a little bit different when we're talking about the governmental authority that's made up of representatives from your communities that will have control over this. They have a vested interest in making sure that what end users they bring are desirable for this community. Okay, and you can see that when you go south of what they've done south of I-20 with Decatur and Netta. These are the types of industry that every jurisdiction in the state would love to have. So, but they can't get those types of high-end Class A users if they don't have the property in a condition where they can move into it. If development is still years away, you can't get those kind of folks. This is a necessary step to make that happen. So we ask you to recommend approval. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. I've had some time to look at this and read over the Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance. I read through the ordinance for amendments and what's required for amendments, and this is an amendment to the zoning map. And I want to address something right off the bat. Let's talk about the Stanton Springs Business Park zoning district. Now, I do believe that the acceptance of this application was an error of the city. And I state that because if it is simply as read the purpose and intent of the Stanton Springs Business Park ordinance, Stanton Springs Business Park District is permitted under the following conditions. A, it is part of a large-scale development of 1,000 acres or more located in at least 2 contiguous counties. Well, this is 240 acres, and it's only in 1 county. So I'm not sure how we could recommend approval to a request and that City Council can make an amendment to allow the zoning on property that is contrary to the ordinance itself. Two, the tier 1 and tier 2, yes, as someone brought up in public meeting, tier 1 is solely for the properties along Shire Parkway. This is not Shire Parkway. So that I have some objections for, or of, based on just the Stansbury's Business Park zoning that's being requested. The very last section, section 914.7, talks about notice to the Joint Development Authority of Jasper, Morgan, Newton, and Walton counties. Within 3 days of receipt of an application related to zoning, use, or building activities in the Stanton Springs Business Park District, the county, cities shall provide a copy of any such application to the JDA. Barbara, have we provided notification to the JDA of this request?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, thank you. So, the next item is the amendments being a rezoning request. And it talks about, in section 1602, go down to application for a zoning ordinance map amendment shall include A, B, C. C, an application for amendment to rezone shall be accompanied by such other plans, elevations, or additional information the city manager or this ordinance may require, showing the proposed development and its impact on natural and built environment systems. Additional information may include, without limitations, traffic studies, utility studies, drainage studies. At a minimum, the following shall be submitted for commercial, non-residential, multifamily zoning proposals. Show the proposed layout of building locations, driveways, and parking lots. Show proposed curb cuts or existing driveways, roadways. Show all required buffers and building setback lines. List how utilities are to be provided, including but not limited to water, sewer, well, septic. State the density per acre and the square feet per acre of the total buildings. I didn't get that in my application. I don't know if anybody else got that in their packets either. So I'd say that this is an incomplete application, just based on those items. So I'm not sure how others are looking at this. Again, I look at this as saying that, number one, the property doesn't meet the standards for the Stanton Springs Business Park, and the application failed to provide those items I just read. Again, I don't know what you members may be thinking, but that's just what I saw, and it is open for discussion.
Well, I've actually had people contact me from that area that live and take that into consideration. Plus the fact that you just brought it there. It's not complete. Then we need to, I would like a motion if we deny.
Before there's a motion, ladies, is there any discussion that you would like to bring up? Okay, well, if that's the case, Mike, the chair, will entertain your motion.
That we deny.
There's a motion made by Mike Griswold to deny it, seconded by Signora Jackson. All those in favor of the motion to deny this zoning request, please raise your hand. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a signed ordinance, clean draft version. Barbara, you did send that out to us. I understand this is something that the city and the city attorney have been working on. Would you like to introduce it for us?
Yes, sir. We have a new sign ordinance, a proposed new sign ordinance, and of course, it's quite lengthy. I did not make any slides to go with it. Our old ordinance had some things in it that the new laws have changed, so our city attorney, I think they had a company that would go in and kind of look at our sign ordinance so that we're not breaking any rules. And I did give you a copy on the desk tonight of the...
Barbara, if you'd like to take just
Okay.
a brief pause.
Okay. Yeah, they're gonna have to read all that. And you might...
Yeah. Okay, Barbara, thank you.
Okay. Like I said, there was quite a few things that changed that needed to be updated to make sure that we are following the law for signs. They get quite lengthy. So our city attorney, Mr. Powell, is here, and he's going to kind of address it, so he knows a little bit more about the red line package that I gave you tonight.
So, as y'all know, the city council in their long-range plan have been really targeting different parts of the ordinance to sort of bring them up to date. So, this is a pretty involved project that doesn't involve our office as much as it does zoning and ordinance design firm called Clark Patterson. They actually did the draft of the full ordinance. And what they're trying to do is just give you something that's better, more tightly drafted, more up-to-date, current issues, getting your code up to speed on anything that is, where the standards have changed over the years. Trying to get you ready for what you're obviously facing, and bigger groups of people coming in with a lot of plans and giving the standards to go by that are enforcement. And so that's what it is. I would encourage you to take a close look at it. With y'all's experience reviewing and making recommendations, y'all have more understanding, probably than most city members, of what needs to happen in order to keep things organized and where you can make recommendations that make sense. And as you see tonight, you probably wouldn't want to refer to a specific road if you were regulating a zoning classification. It creates confusion. And so making sure those kind of things aren't in there. A specific issue that has come up is and we see it around the state, where billboard companies are trying to place billboards where they're not really authorized by your local statute. And so in that process, they don't really talk about billboards, they talk about regulating signs using the content of the language on the sign. And so when you get to the point where those companies are visiting and filing applications, then you need to clean up your ordinance for what is a First Amendment violation to where you can regulate the signs correctly. And so again, we didn't really do that work. It was an associated group that specializes in First Amendment review, and you've got a clean ordinance that'll really help you deal with the billboard issues. And so that just got incorporated into the big draft of everything. And it's worth taking time. I know y'all got a short version, and I think Barbara got a red line for everybody to see what the changes are. I really did, when I read it, there were so many changes on it recommended that it's a little easier for me just to read the unedited version so that it makes sense. And then with your experience, figure out if there's something in there that you don't like, and make a recommendation to the mayor and council on those things.
Are there any questions of Barbara or Tony about the text amendment to the sign ordinance and the purpose for this text amendment? If not, we'll open up the public hearing. Barbara, I don't have a sign-in sheet for anyone who'd like to speak in favor for, or?
Did not have one.
Okay. You did not have a sign-in sheet or did not receive one?
I didn't have one.
Okay. In that case, anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this text amendment, please raise your hand and we'll be called upon. Anyone that'd like to speak in opposition? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Tony, yes, I'm well aware of the litigation that has come about due to content neutrality and placement. We're doing the same thing where I working with the consulting attorney. So I did look at this. It's ironic that we're doing it about the same time. So I wouldn't say it's airtight, but it's better than what we have now. I don't have any other comments. You guys have any discussion, any comments to make on it? I will say I'm glad the air conditioner's cut off because now it's not so cold up here. No other comments. The chair will entertain a motion for the text amendment to the sign ordinance. recommend approval. Is that right? Okay. We have a motion by Signora Jackson to recommend approval of the signed ordinance as drafted. Is there, we got a dual second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Great, thank you. We have no other unfinished business, and we have no other new business. We do have on the agenda listed for executive session. Although we're not executives, we don't make the final decision on any items. We all make recommendations. We don't deal with pending litigation. We don't deal with settlement claims. We don't deal with personnel matters. I think we all know why the executive session item is on there. But other than that, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you.